Hi, wanted to mention of how to do the early colonial sampler. Normally in 5th grade we would have it done in cross stitch or embroidery, where you're actually using pointy needles and fabric, usually with squares or pieces of linen with a frame hoop. But unfortunately, we're not going to be able to make sure that every single student during our shelter in place has access to that. So instead, we are using Jamboard, which is a Google site. And usually when you start off by making an untitled jam. It first will say to start, tap plus, and the plus will be down here in this corner. And then at this point, you would come up with how to use the tools themselves. This is to undo and redo. So let's say you do something and you want to bring it back. That's redo, brings it back. You have zoom in and zoom out, which is absolutely wonderful for being able to make this bigger and smaller as you edit. It's very similar to any other paint program that you might get through, say, Microsoft or Windows. You can change your background. In this case, you'll probably want to use the grid background as compared to the graph background, which has it's easier to do it with the grid background, or maybe dots even, because normally when you do this on embroidery cross stitch fabric, you see the little dots. Don't hit clear frame, because if you do, you're going to lose all your work, which I did once on one of my samples, and I had to redo the whole thing again. So don't hit clear frame unless you really, really mean it, because in this case, I had accidentally backed out too far and could not recover my work. Avoid clear flame as much as possible.
It's flame. It's flame, not flame.
Okay, I avoid clear flames. I can't see them. So we are going to discuss the pen. You have a pen option, marker, highlighter, and brush. You have only 6 colors to choose from, but you'll notice that when you use these, they each, actually let's go to something like blue. Great example on blue here. They actually don't all show up as the exact same color. The marker and then the highlighter seems to show up as a lighter blue.
As you can see.
As you can see. And then brush seems to show up as the same dark blue as the marker.
Yeah,
but then you have to layer it to get it darker and darker and darker and darker as you layer it.
It can make really cool geometric shapes.
It can also make really cool blends. Yes. So when you decide to go back over that with a little bit of a white highlight, you can use a little bit of pen. I will say this would be easier done with a stylus on a tablet than with a mouse or a touchpad. But you gotta use what you got these days. So let's say there's that little white highlight and I go over it a few times, I can make really cool effects. I'm sort of changing a monotone. You have erase, so that way you can just get rid of something. In my case, I found it was easier for me to make sharp edges using an eraser. You have the pointer, and I'm not entirely sure what that is supposed to do. Actually, I think it's just supposed to make it so I can't draw on it. Yeah. Sticky note I didn't use. Add image. This is not an add image project. This is if you wanted to import something and edit it. In this case, you'll be making something from scratch. And laser is just something that tends to vanish off your screen. Good for presentation mode. But at the same time, it's also good for kids who just have absolutely nothing better to do with their day. This is not part of your project either. So, what we are talking about is doing... Go ahead and open up some of the samples you did. Something along the line of drawing a letter. The colonials would have their children learn their alphabets by, well, especially the girls, would learn them by stitching them into fabric. And they would actually remember how to do different types of stitches based on what they stitched into their fabric. In this case, we're going to choose a letter and draw something that, of course, starts with that letter as a sample.
For example, chess is C. I mean, everyone knows chess. If you don't know chess...
Next screen.
Okay. You can also have multiple screens if you go
Yes, you can also go up there and go through.
And
if you hit clear frame, you will break somebody's heart. Go ahead and go to the next page.
Okay.
R is for rocket. For those of you who know Ray Bradbury, you'll understand. So, don't forget that you can also share You go on, you keep on going page to page to page. You can do 4 different ones.
You can do even
You
more
can also
than
share,
that.
okay, more than that. And then you can also have the share button, open on a Jamboard, things to that effect.
Apparently
So
the maximum is 20.
go back to the ones that for the samples. I will also pin up pictures of my samples at the end of this video. I have one sample specifically. Of course, you'll probably guess it's A is for art. So I want to...
And the one that she accidentally destroyed.
I can't pin that up. It's a blank screen. So, regardless, this is our video on how to do a colonial sampler. And if everybody actually does a different letter, it would be really cool, because then maybe we'll find some way to pin these all together side by side. And we could even make a quilt of some form, at least visually speaking. And then there's the person who knows how to use the program even better than I do. How long did it take you to do C is for chess?
C is for chess. It only took me like around, say,
10 minutes or less?
15 10.
Yeah. Okay, mine took a lot longer, but I also got a lot more detail, did a lot more layering and detailing. At least I got to use a mouse. If you have a stylus and a touch screen, I will recommend that one just because it will help immensely. So again, come up with a letter. It's possible maybe the teacher would like to assign one or not. And then at that point, come up with a letter and an image in the letter that represents it. And have a good day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.